Hi, I'm Jack Baruzzini, and you're listening to The Secret to Stargate, where we talk about the hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. And joining me today are Father Cory Sticha. Hi, Father.
Howdy, Jack.
And Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Jack.
And Victor Lambs. Hey, Victor.
Hello, Jack. Gratmütchen.
Today, I wish I knew more Russian, and I would do it in Russian.
Yeah.
Today we are discussing the third episode of Season 8 of SG1, Lockdown. And for people who don't know, Lockdown is kind of like a quarantine. If there's like a virus or something that gets loose, they have to lock people down. I know probably a lot of people haven't heard of like a lockdown or a quarantine.
Never experienced that.
Yeah.
Don't know anything about it.
No frame of reference for that at all.
No, not at all.
Who would do such a silly thing?
Yeah, it has varying degrees of effectiveness, but that's a different conversation. After Anubis's fleet is destroyed, Russian Colonel Alexei Vasilov arrives at Stargate Command and promptly requests to join SG1. General O'Neill's rejection causes him to have a mysterious collapse, revealing extensive internal and viral damage. While Daniel Jackson is taken over by Anubis, who is revealed to be living inside of Vasilov's body. The rest of the episode, we get to follow Anubis flying around in his ghostly form. Unfortunately, they did not have any proton packs available to deal with the problem. General O'Neill ends up locking down the SGC. He gets to use the red telephone, which is always a good thing. Eventually, Anubis jumps from Daniel to a nurse to Sam and then back into Jack. Vasilov ends up sacrificing himself to take Anubis's body through the Stargate to a frozen planet where I presume he is now a popsicle forever. I was kind of hoping
until he's not.
Until he's not. I was thinking they need to jump into the black hole. Why didn't they do that? So.
Oh, yeah.
What were your thoughts on this episode, Father?
It's, after all the money they spent on the big battles and everything and all the special effects, this is a bottle episode. We're going to use as little of special effects as possible. We're going to use all existing sets. Yeah. That's all you can say about it.
Pretty much. What about you, Lisa?
I actually like this one because I think they're creative. If you're going to have to do this with low budget bottle episode, I thought it was well written, good character interaction. It was kind of fun to see how O'Neill was going to handle being general, potatoes and all. So, I mean, it has its moments. Of course, it's not the best, but I thought it was creative for doing what they were trying to do.
Yeah. What about you, Victor?
Can we talk about Atlantis now? I want to talk about Atlantis. No, I mean, it's a pretty good, episode about alien that gets a foothold in, the SGC. And, this foothold situation leads to an alien impersonating key members of the SGC. And they have to deal with this foothold situation, by getting the aliens to leave, so there's no longer a foothold situation in the SGC. I just feel like we've maybe have seen this before. I can't quite recall where.
Yeah. Certain memory has a foothold in my mind about that.
Yeah.
I liked the beginning of this episode where we see Jack sort of easing into his role as the commander of the SGC and Teal commissioning his apartment, which I can't wait to see Teal's apartment. That should have been the episode.
Yeah.
I want to see the housewarming party.
Yeah.
But I feel like, the plot's pretty boilerplate for this kind of thing. There's not a real twist because it's revealed pretty quickly that it's just Anubis jumping around people's bodies, and Vasilov remembers being possessed by him at a convenient time to move the plot forward so we're not stuck wondering for too long. I did like the part where Daniel finds out that Jack shot him while Daniel was possessed by Anubis. That was fun.
Yeah.
Who shot me? Let's not dwell on that. No, really, who shot me?
But I think that it would have been more fun to do a bottle episode about Jack being in charge of the SGC, and he just has to deal with a bunch of stupid, mundane problems that aren't actually like life-threatening. That would have been more interesting, I feel like.
That's coming.
It is kind of sad where the whole conversation about Yukon Golds versus Russets was more interesting than a lot of the episode.
I was very impressed of how straight Jack played it when he's on the phone with the president.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it wasn't the Jack O'Neill we've seen for the last 7 seasons. You know, he was very serious. So I liked that they showed him, you know, he hadn't read the memo, but it was there, but he's serious, but he's not. So I thought that was nice.
But it's still very Jack that the desk was piled, about 5 deep with documents.
Yeah. You never saw Hammond struggling with paperwork or. Yeah.
And, I totally cannot sympathize with that. With all, for those watching the video, you'll see all my books stacked behind me with Grogu looking over them. And I totally can't sympathize with that at all.
See, I've conveniently placed my stack of junk right out of sight. So
right here.
Yeah.
Green screen.
The books are the best part. The rest of it's like here.
Yeah, mine's totally not a pile of laundry I need to fold.
But they do a good job making Vasilov like sympathetic. I mean, the episode opens, we see the SG1 talking, or SGC Carter talking to the International Space Station, which looks a lot different than it did now. And the Russian crew up there is talking about how they have to move because space junk from Anubis's fleet is headed towards them, so they have to pull off this daring maneuver. And the Russian teams feel that they're being given the short end of the stick by the Americans, when it comes to the gate activity. And they, as Daniel says, they have a point. So you're kind of sympathetic to Vasilov, who's played by Gavin Hood, who would later go on to direct a number of sci-fi movies like Ender's Game and some X-Men movies. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, not a long acting career, but definitely more of a
still,
director.
it's a pretty major directing gig, so that's awesome.
Yeah, and so you're sympathetic to him, and he's, I'm top of my class, I'm awesome, I would like to, go through the gate. You realize later it was Anubis talking, and that's why he's so gung-ho to get through the gate. But still, you feel sorry for him when Jack has to basically shoot him down, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
I just need to clarify that in this episode.
Yeah, Daniel's the one who gets shot down, literally.
Yeah.
Well, and a couple of the, guards, too.
That's true.
True, yeah. I was going to say, I hadn't really thought about it, but now that Jack is in command of the SGC, he's not really on SG1 anymore.
Nope.
So they need to fill that slot.
Yeah.
And they do, I like that actually where they're talking about who's going to be the 4th member. And was it Carter says something about like, there's no real regulation saying it has to be 3 or it has to be 4. And that's you almost feel like that they could have just looked right at the camera saying, we're not going to add a 4th member this season.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no regulation, but it's still probably a good idea to have like more than 3 people. I mean, on the team.
That.
Yeah.
As much trouble as they get into,
well,
you might want that 4th person.
Season 7, that pretty much was SG1. It was just rotating 3 different members. If not 2.
I assume that was probably they were able to work that into the plot to balance the stories better. Just dealing with the 3 and having Richard Dean Anderson be more of a background character at this point was probably what they were going for.
Yeah. Well, that's what he wanted. He wanted at best to be a secondary character. And so now he's got a role where, except for episodes like this, he can play. He might show up for a scene or 2, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ironic because we see the 4 of them more in this episode almost than we did the entire 7th season. But
yeah. And they said this was the first episode they shot. Of the season. So, yeah, I like them sitting around. How is Jack going to be as general and in charge? And you see Carter jump up out of her chair, and he's just
knock it off. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they all just forced to sit around and chat like they did every other season. So it was kind of nice to see them, how they're using the roles.
And I guess they're finally letting Teal'c move out. 'cause he's going to get his apartment. And I assume we're going to see that later on, but
We are episode 7.
nice.
So stick around, folks. It gets better.
Yeah. I don't know if y'all's laughing is an indication of the quality of that episode or not, but
I don't remember it. I don't remember it, but yeah, probably the most interesting part of this episode is that they use the cool blur effect, like back in Star Trek would have been like Vaseline on the lens to show Anubis switching between people. Yay.
yeah, he gets his, and the whole reason he can't just fly away into space is because he can't use his ascended powers because that will alert the ancients.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got to basically upload himself to a human body to get through the gate to do something else, I guess. They don't really go further into that.
I thought it was a creative way to let us know Anubis is still around without them having to fight Anubis, in the sense that we did last season.
Yeah.
So he's still here. He's still going to be a threat, but this is more about the characters and the new roles that they're in the SGC.
Well, one thing I did like is they did explain that what we saw of Anubis was really just a force field holding in half-ascended Anubis, which was kind of a cool way to explain that how he could maintain a physical form even though he wasn't physical anymore.
I did like them explaining that, yeah.
Yeah, he's very similar to the Nazgul in Lord of the Rings, where he's this spiritual, ethereal figure who has no physical form and can't really do a lot without a physical form, and then he wears a big black cloak to cover it up.
Yep.
Or is it like the Bannocs in Farscape who are like energy but kind of held back with I don't know. I think there's some sort of characters like that. I did like that. What I don't like is we really don't get to see Anubis himself, except as like the inky space squid in this. So there's really no, personal, villain in this. It's just kind of a amorphous blob moving through the base, which we'll see in our next episode as well. Unfortunately, another bottle episode, but yeah, no. So it's kind of like, oh, it's Anubis, but it's not really Anubis, and he's possessing people, which are all things we've seen before. And then Carter comes up with this like really complicated, contrived plan of splitting the base into different zones and then sealing them off so that nobody has access to the gate room and the gate and the power. And it doesn't really pay off because like the first thing Anubis does is possess Carter, who can like go through all the zones. I didn't get that whole thing. It was like overly complicated and didn't pay off.
And they like completely rewired the entire electrical and security system of the entire base to fit these zones.
And then, so then Jack goes and activates the self-destruct, which we find out was actually Anubis doing that. And Carter is able to override all of this in about 2 minutes with some keyboard
2 minutes,
taps.
30 seconds. I mean, it was like...
and reprogram the
generous.
gate computer. Yeah, and reprogram the gate computer so that Anubis doesn't go where he thinks he's going.
She's got a bash script set up at that point, I feel like.
For foothold situations.
Yep.
You just have
bash gate reprogram, blah, 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 blah. Done.
How casual they never called it a foothold.
They mentioned it in the episode.
All.
They did say, well, in the event of a foothold situation, we can do this. Yeah.
And then they, locked down. It was like, I don't know. They just seemed pretty casual about it. Like, okay.
And how long was the base locked down? Like 10 days?
A couple of days.
I thought it was at least 10 days because at one point he's saying we've been locked down for 6 days. And that was after they'd broken the base up into the 3 different zones.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah, I did like his bluff though. The president tells him he's got to reopen and he gets on the loudspeaker and is like, well, we're here for at least another month.
Yep.
Yeah. Anubis is like, another month? I can't take this. I want to watch Atlantis.
Yeah.
I'm getting out of here.
Okay, you know what's funny is this episode and the next episode we're doing, which is Atlantis, those aired back to back on the same night, which is really funny when we get to that episode and we talk about the similarities with this episode.
Oh, yes.
That they aired them on the same night back to back.
Yeah.
It's not only are we watching them back to back, it's...
Yeah.
So we do have a new character. Dr. Brightman.
Oh, yeah.
You get to meet her for the first time.
New doctor,
and not as interesting as Janet.
Well, Then you're lucky because it's the only time we see her on SG1.
Yeah.
Okay, I was
Exactly.
going to say, because she was just Dr. Not Janet to me.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what she was. She was not a very interesting character compared to Janet and then later on Lexa Doig when she shows up.
Yeah.
Right. Much better. Yeah. And then, but we do see we see the actress. I think it's the same character in universe.
Could be.
Oh, really?
Like, I think she's still Dr. Brightman in universe. I'll go back and look. So I thought that was interesting. And I don't remember her there, but I don't remember universe much. So
I don't either.
Yeah. We'll get to that one eventually.
yeah.
Does she not get a first name? She doesn't get a first name in this show.
Nope.
Doctor.
Oh, yeah, Doctor.
Doctor.
Wait,
Yeah,
she's
no,
the
I just
doctor?
looked. She's
That's a
she's in
different show.
4 episodes of Universe as Dr. Brightman. Still no first name.
Yeah. Yeah, so she is in universe a little bit, it looks like.
And we got Aaron Pearl, who played Hammond in the 1969 episode.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say,
It's
that
Kearney.
actor looked really familiar. It's like, that guy looks really familiar. So,
Yeah, because they give you a really like zoom in on his face, and you're like, wait, I know you. Why do I know you?
Yeah.
and then he gets zatted.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, again.
I think it would have been cool to have Vasilov be on the SG team, get his outside look in on the team and add a whole new dynamic. But I do also understand why they don't go with that.
Yeah, and if the show is made now, we'd get like a 6-episode or full season arc of him being possessed by Anubis the whole time, kind of like Lorca is alternate universe Lorca, and it'd be like you'd find out like an episode he's like, oh my gosh, he was Anubis the whole time, and that's why he was so like mean to SG1, and but now we find out like in the first 15 minutes, you're like, okay, that's kind of interesting.
And he doesn't really stay, and Anubis doesn't stay him very long once he gets into SGC.
No, because he's kind of getting burned up with
and he bounces around between different.
Yeah, I did like that scene though where Carter comes to visit Daniel in the infirmary, and Vasilov is in the next bed over, and Carter's like, "Oh hey, Vasilov," and just like pulls the sheet, and then Daniel asks Carter, "How's Vasilov?" and she's like, "Not good. He does not have long to live." I'm like, he's just on the other side of the sheet.
And then
like, that's not a wall.
Then later on, he says, like, no one's told me, but I've heard people talking. So is he talking about
the nurses
Carter?
are getting really quiet around me. That's not a good sign.
It's like I dreamed Carter was talking about me, though.
Yeah.
I do also like how we see that this is after Jack has rejected his plea to be on SG1. He's like pulls up his sleeve in his room and he's got those like lesions all over his arm.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Daniel comes and knocks on the door to talk to him, he shakes his hand, Daniel's hand, with that same arm.
Yeah.
Like, even if I guess you can say, no, it makes sense now because that was Anubis, so he knew what was going on. Never mind. Before you know that, it's more just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this infectious? Is this,
They said he's covered with lesions on like 40% of his body, and conveniently it's the 40% that's covered with clothes.
It was convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like his hands are fine. His face is fine.
Yeah.
Deadpool probably wishes that's how he was.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't mention the part where at the very beginning, the Russians on the space station are talking, and then they say something they don't want to translate, and then Daniel just happens to be there. He's like, "Oh yeah." I forgot what it was, but it was something.
It's not like the Americans need to clean up after their own mess or something like that. Or if you're going to blow up a ship in orbit, make sure to clean up after yourself.
Yeah, that was good.
So I guess that means that all astronauts in the space programs of the various countries are read into the Stargate program, which I guess makes sense in hindsight.
In that case, they definitely were. I would assume they were.
Yeah.
The number of times like space shuttle crews have had to gone up and save SG1, like at the end of season 1 and stuff. It's like,
that's true.
Who are we picking up again? Don't worry about it.
Well, imagine when Pegasus or when Prometheus took off.
Yeah,
they're in the ISS going, wait, what is that?
I mean, there's those YouTube videos about all this with disclosure and everything. Maybe this is what David Grush was talking about.
What, at Waco?
No,
Oh, okay. Sorry. Right.
That's what I thought he said. Crush.
not Grush.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know the video.
He's the
The
whistleblower
alien, yeah,
who
the
was talking
whistleblower, yeah.
about all the alien technology we apparently have.
Well, is he the one that it's? I'm not saying it's always aliens, but it's aliens. Is he that guy or?
He's
or
a
is that
more
somebody else?
professional version of that guy
Oh, okay.
who worked for the government. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just reading some of the making of stuff here. And apparently they send Vasilov off to the frozen planet to basically die and preserve Anubis there. When Carter told O'Neill that she had sent him to the frozen planet, O'Neill said, "Well, I hope he wore warm socks." And so they thought that was a little too callous on his part.
So does he just say frosty or something
He
like
says
that?
yeah.
chili.
Yeah.
He says chilly, but it's not much better.
And the guy just saved you. Come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And he instantly froze to death, it looked like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Close. Got a few steps.
That was a cool scene. I mean, like
Yeah.
the him sitting there frozen in the snow with the Stargate. That was a pretty cool shot. I like
Yeah.
that. I
Stargate's
don't think
kind
we've
of
seen that before.
a little bit buried there, and yeah.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
hero to the end.
Although they're with the level of ice on that Stargate there, I feel like there should have been like a trench cut in the front from the
That would have
Kwoosh.
been actually good. Yeah, they didn't do that. Like,
Mhm.
you didn't see any little Kwoosh marks on the snow, just his steps.
Well, they could have gone back to film that like weeks later, and he still would have been frozen there, right? So
Yeah, there we
yeah,
go.
and the snow would have. Yeah,
I like that. That was good.
It
Nice.
blew in. No.
yeah.
True, this is after 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we'll never hear from Anubis again. He's frozen.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
No way he's getting out of
Totally
that.
will not be a cafe set of scenes.
Yeah, we still got to deal with him.
He's not
Yeah.
dead yet.
No.
Yeah.
He's mostly alive. Or he's
Just
still
enough.
alive, yes.
No.
Yeah, did we have any alternate language titles for this episode, Victor?
Yeah. So in most cases, they didn't go with, what was this, lockdown? They went with quarantine, which is basically, quarantine in French and Italian. In Italian, confinamento, in Spanish, it's confinamento, which means confinement. And then in German, they went with the poetic route, and it's Colonel Vasilov. That's the name of the episode.
That's funny. Talk about being as plain and
Yeah,
blunt
exactly.
as you can. It's all about Vasilov.
But no spoilers. It could have
yeah.
been Anubis Returns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big fans of the Russians in Germany. So
Yeah.
no bad blood there.
Yeah.
Just know
And
what
if
you're
you are
getting
from
into,
Germany,
Yeah.
leave us a comment below.
Do y'all have any other thoughts on this episode?
Nope.
Nope.
Just the reviews of this episode online are pretty much in line with what y'all said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was an episode of SG1.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess I try to look at, we've had so many that are meh. They're like, oh, it wasn't, I mean, it is what
It wasn't
is,
bad.
right?
It just
Yeah.
wasn't
It was
great.
fun. I like
Yeah.
the character. I like the four of them being together. That was it.
I think it's a decent episode that suffers from coming right after New Order and
Oh.
sandwiched right in between the
Yep.
premiere of Atlantis.
Yeah, you could tell they wanted to step back and give Atlantis a little of the glory here. Give that
Yeah.
show a chance to really shine by releasing some clunkers here at the beginning of
Mhm. Well, and they
the eighth episode.
and they also took a moment to catch everybody up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who's Anubis? What's going on? What's the Stargate? Like they kind of caught you up if you were tuning in because of Atlantis.
Yep.
That's true, yeah. It is a very functional episode in that regard. And you also get to know about the fact that the Russians are also kind of part of the Stargate program, but we don't hear about it often.
Yep.
Yep.
And Siler's in it, so
That's true.
True.
Hmm. And he's not injured.
Yeah.
Was he not? Oh, no.
Anubis Siler would have been awesome, though.
That would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Awesome. We do have some feedback.
Cool.
On our episode on inauguration on YouTube, Flying Car 100 commented, "The last time I tried to use a floppy disk was in 2006. My printer did not work, so I tried to turn in my assignment that way. Unfortunately, my teacher did not have a floppy drive in his computer, but let me turn it in once I got the printer working." So yeah, we were talking about the use of the floppy disk having all the information about the NID on there and about Kinsey.
I have a bunch out in the garage. I should get like a USB floppy reader, which you can still get. You can still get a floppy drive, plugs in via USB, still runs on modern systems.
Yeah, all 1.44 megabytes of it.
Woohoo!
The last time I used a floppy was probably in 2002, and it was to play like this game I got with an Independence Day action figure that I found at the thrift store.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was probably like 7 or 8 years old even then. We also have a comment on our episode, Proving Ground on YouTube. Valathor95 said, "Really sad to hear that you didn't like this one. This is another one that I really love."
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. It's good concept, poor execution.
Mm-hmm.
Would be
And
my
there's so
review
many
of
great
that.
episodes. And what was that season? Was that season 6 or season?
I think it was 6.
Or season 5, maybe.
5, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of really good
It's
episodes.
been quite a
so-
while. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember what we said, so maybe I'll have to go back and listen to it again.
Yeah, I hope we didn't say anything too bad.
I think we just generally weren't fans of the bait and switch
Yeah.
that would happened over
Yep.
and over again. I did like that it was kind of a lower decks kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I always like hearing when people have vastly different opinions on episodes that we either really liked or really didn't like, hearing what they liked about it or
hmm
vice versa. So thank you for commenting, Valathor95, and we definitely love to hear your input on any other episodes that we disagree on or agree on for that matter.
Yeah.
Before we go, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to continue The Secret to Stargate, including Laura S., Leilani S., Matthew K., Teresa H., and Robert G. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue The Secret to Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and you can find the video versions and comment there like Valathor95 and Flying Car 100 did at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. And to find previous episodes of Secret to Stargate and to send us feedback, you can visit sqpn.com/Stargate. And you can email us at stargate@sqpn.com and follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on Twitter at SQPN. And we'll be back next time and we'll be discussing the next episode of Stargate Atlantis. Looking forward to that. Hide and Seek. Until then, Father Cory, thank you for joining me and sharing the secret to Stargate.
Well, thank you, Jack.
And Lisa Jones, thank you as well.
Thanks, Jack.
And Victor Lambs, thank you too.
Wow, that was a load. Thanks, Jack.
And once again, I'm Jack Baruzzini. Thank you for listening to The Secret to Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?